And welcome back. I'm Aaron Brilbeck covering the Capitol. With me, Democratic Representative Jason Dunnington of Oklahoma City. Today we're talking about what we've been talking about for quite some time, which is 788, legalization of medical marijuana. We talked with John Echols last week a bit about it and the concerns that a lot of folks have in terms of regulation or potential over-regulation of medical marijuana. He had said that there's closed doors discussions going on right now where they're figuring out exactly how to regulate it, but they don't want to destroy the spirit of medical marijuana and what folks are voting for. What are your concerns going into this as a Democrat?
Yeah, well, I think those concerns that Representative Echols brought up last week are valid. I think that whether or not we pass or fail right now, there needs to be a healthy regulatory established framework around medical marijuana. But I think if you look at states that have already done this, and there are 29 other states that have already made medical marijuana legal in those states, there is plenty of information for us to glean from states not only around the country, but states around us here as well.
A problem that we have that many of these other states don't have, though, is right now it looks like we're going to be putting this into the hands of the health department. As we know, the health department has had a lot of issues financially, and also the perception that people have of the health department in terms of those financial issues. $30 million they lost, they found again, they lost again, a bunch of people got laid off, a lot of other people quit as a result of that. So there's not a whole lot of trust right now in the department. That trust is being worked on rebuilding, but right now the trust is not there. Do we stick with leaving this in the hands of the health department, which has already said, by the way, they can't handle it, they're not equipped to handle it, or do we set up another level of bureaucracy?
Yeah, so the health department is an issue in and of itself, and that's more to do with the health department than it is to do with this issue of medical marijuana. If you look at medical marijuana right now, Representative Jordan, during the last session, put together a measure that had worked with all the groups surrounding this issue and had put together a good piece of legislation that would have started a separate commission that would have overseen the regulation of marijuana. Unfortunately, we sent that over to the state Senate, and the state Senate didn't take that up right now. And I think part of the reason they didn't take it up was because they were being told by outside groups that if they were to fix some of the problems that many of us were talking about, that they would have a harder time beating the question on the ballot in June. And so I think that's what this is more about right now, is it's outside groups that don't want us to have any form of marijuana in the state. And so they pushed the legislature to not do the sensible fixes ahead of time. Those things are already in the queue for us to do. Right now, we just need to take a lot of the fear and consternation out of this issue, see its passage here next week in the primaries, and then do the regulatory fixes that many of us have been talking about now for years.
Given that, though, in terms of agreeing on the regulatory fixes, there's a lot to consider. It's not just a question of how it's going to be distributed. It's a question of taxation. It's a question of how it's going to be regulated, how it's going to be grown properly so that it's not potentially injurious to somebody who's taking it. How do you guys accomplish all that in that 30-day window that you're given?
Well, I don't disagree with any of those things. But again, 29 states have already done this with medical marijuana. So there's plenty of information out there for us to use. And again, in that framework that we had, that Representative Jordan had prepared for us, that 30-day period had been extended out significantly. Had we done that during regular session, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now. I think that, again, it was outside groups that wanted the best chance to fail this on the ballot, wanted the 30 days to be a talking point for them so that they could continue to scare everyone about the fears of our state moving on to use medical marijuana. But it's not anything for us to be afraid of. This is a decision between a doctor and a patient, and many of the states have already gone before us. Do we not trust our doctors to be able to prescribe marijuana in the same way they prescribe other drugs, to their patients? I think we do trust our doctors to do that.
Representative Jason Dunnington, thanks for your time.